There are places on this earth that feel like they were born from myth, places of just staggering beauty, where the sun-drenched land meets an impossibly blue sea. And Cyprus is absolutely one of those places. But behind all that beauty lies a story of deep and really painful contradiction. It's a jewel of the Mediterranean, and at the exact same time, it's a scar on the map, a wound that has just refused to heal for half a century. For ages, poets and pilgrims were drawn here to what they called the mythical birthplace of Aphrodite, the goddess of love, an island that, pretty ironically, would one day become a symbol of modern division. Okay, so let's get into this. To really understand what's happening today, we have to look back, way back. You see, Cyprus's greatest blessing and its deepest curse has always been its location. It's a strategic crossroads, smack in the middle of Europe, Asia, and Africa, and that made it a prize coveted by empires. For literally millennia, it was passed from one power to the next: the Assyrians, the Persians, Alexander the Great. Later on, the Romans, the Byzantines, the Venetians, then for more than 3 centuries, the Ottomans, and finally, the British Empire. And every single one of them left their mark, layering cultures, but also sowing the seeds of future conflict. All right, let's fast forward to the 20th century, because this is where things really start to heat up. As British rule started to weaken, 2 powerful, totally competing visions for the island's future came to a head, setting its people on a collision course. On one side, you had Enosis. This was the dream of the Greek Cypriot majority to unite with Greece. And on the other, Taksim, the demand of the Turkish Cypriot minority for partition, to protect their own identity and their own security. 2 completely irreconcilable futures for one very small island. Now, these numbers are the absolute key to understanding the island's fragile independence back in 1960. A new constitution was engineered as this really complex power-sharing agreement. It gave the Turkish Cypriot minority, just over 18% of the people, huge veto powers, basically to prevent the Greek Cypriot majority from dominating everything. But this delicate balance, it was a recipe for paralysis. The majority felt their will was constantly being blocked, while the minority lived in constant fear of their rights being stripped away. It was a compromise built on total mistrust, and it was pretty much destined to fail. And, well, it didn't last. By 1963, a constitutional crisis just boiled over into brutal violence between the communities. The power-sharing government completely collapsed. Turkish Cypriots either withdrew or were blocked from their jobs, and they retreated into these fortified enclaves as a UN peacekeeping force arrived to patrol a new dividing line, the Green Line. Then came the summer of 1974. This was the tipping point. On July 15th, a coup, engineered by the military junta in Greece, overthrew the Cypriot government to force that union. 5 days later, Turkey launched a full-scale invasion. It invoked its right as a guarantor power, claiming it had a legal right to intervene to restore the old constitutional order. After a brief ceasefire and failed peace talks, a second, even larger invasion followed, permanently cementing the island's division. And just like that, in a matter of weeks, 36% of the island fell under Turkish military control. A line was drawn across the country, not in pencil, but with tanks and soldiers. And the human cost? Well, it was just staggering. Over 150,000 Greek Cypriots fled or were expelled from their homes in the north, while about 50,000 Turkish Cypriots moved from the south. An entire generation became refugees in their own country. And that line? It's still there today. It's a physical and a psychological barrier that defines daily life right across the island. It's known as the UN buffer zone, but most people just call it the Green Line. It stretches 180 kilometers from coast to coast. It's this surreal no man's land of abandoned villages and overgrown fields, completely frozen in time, right back to 1974. And nowhere is this division more visible, more bizarre, than in the capital. Nicosia is the last divided capital city left in the entire world, a city literally cut in two by barbed wire, sandbags, and armed checkpoints. So politically, how does the world see this? Well, the world sees one Cyprus. The self-declared Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, which was proclaimed in 1983, is only recognized by Turkey. To the rest of the international community, it remains occupied territory of the Republic of Cyprus. But politics and borders, that's only one part of the story. Because despite the division, despite all the checkpoints and the separate governments, a shared cultural soul, somehow it endures. You can literally taste it in the food. Whether you call it halloumi or helem, it's the exact same cheese, and it's beloved on both sides. You can hear it in the music, folk melodies that share a common rhythm. And you really feel it in the deep-rooted values of hospitality and family, which are central to both Greek and Turkish Cypriot life. Of course, we can't ignore the very real, profound differences that remain, most notably in religion. The Greek Cypriot community is overwhelmingly Greek Orthodox, while the Turkish Cypriot community is predominantly Sunni Muslim. And these distinct identities are really central to that political divide. So, all of this brings us to today, and to the fundamental, huge question of the island's future. For decades, the goal has been reunification, but the path has just been littered with failure. Let's just take one key example, the UN's Annan Plan back in 2004. It proposed a reunified federal state. Now, in a historic referendum, 65% of Turkish Cypriots actually voted in favor, but it was overwhelmingly rejected by 74% of Greek Cypriots, who felt it didn't do enough to address their concerns over security and the return of property. The gap was just too wide to bridge. And to make things even more complicated, you have to factor in Cyprus's membership in the European Union. In principle, the entire island is EU territory, but in practice, EU law is suspended in the north. It creates this totally unique and complex political reality, all just pending a final settlement. And so here we are, 50 years after the division, and the island remains caught between its past and its future. The checkpoints are more open now, sure, and a whole new generation has grown up knowing only a divided home. The question that hangs over this beautiful, tragic island is as urgent today as it's ever been. Can a divided island with a shared soul ever truly be whole again?